What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Coach Clarence. And joining me today on the show is none other than Ryan Daniel. He has functioned very well in the leadership roles for the past 15 years. He runs Zandolee Media with his wife, Sarah Daniel, and they've helped other organizations grow by development, campaign development, messaging, execution, content development, and distribution, all stuff I need. All right, his background, he's a broadcast journalist. He's got a creative arts with a BA from Northwestern State, St. Paul. Very good. And his specific focus was on storytelling. He's a fortunate holder of various accolades, including 5 Tele-awards. And he messed around in the rap game a little bit with some reggae hip hop. I'm going to ask about that for sure. And he's graced many stage and was part of hip hop compilation that debuted on the gospel billboards at number 37. So welcome, Ryan. And by the way, folks, I have a little bit on the tail end of a cold. So if you hear me cough or graze off, you know what's going on. Welcome, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. Shout out to all your followers that support what you're doing. Thank you, guys, and it's a pleasure to be with you today.
All right, let's get into it, man. First of all, I always like to ask people how they start and where do you get to where you are right now. Go a little bit backwards, to where you're from, how you got here, and because that always helps craft the story of who you are today.
Yeah. Let me give you a clue of where I'm from. Gin and coconut water, you cannot get it in America, right? So I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, and those who know familiar with Calypso, they will know that that's where Calypso came from, Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, I grew up there. My dad was a, middle class, blue collar guy, was a police officer, grew up with 4 boys, did, the hard knocks, man, just, went to a private boys Roman Catholic school, got into a whole bunch of fights and the sun is hot on the island. There's a lot to do. Sometimes there isn't much to do. And then I got a soccer scholarship.
Okay.
To come play soccer or football, as we call it, right here in the United States. And then from there, we just kind of led to the other. I was fortunate to have a good education in terms of where I went to school. I applied myself well. I found myself with really good mentors, that helped me understand what it means to be Black in America.
Okay.
Right. So without them,
well, in America, there's no racism. America's never been racist. It's the land.
Right.
So I don't even know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
Elaborate on racism in Trinidad.
Yeah. Only down there. Only those countries there. So yeah, but it's good. It's and then I'm fortunate, man. To work in my degree. I'm fortunate. I count myself blessed. I give a lot of credit to the good Lord in my life and my faith, and I'm right. What we're doing right now is just growing the company. We're growing the business, and we're trying to provide people better services. And I'm trying to kind of go out into the deep a little bit. We started a podcast, as you know, and I share from my experience and other creatives and their experiences to just be an encouragement and a blessing to people, and it's been going great. So
that's awesome. Speaking of that, it's Black History Month here in America.
Yes.
Kind of tell folks your experience with race, things you encountered, what's different from the islands versus the States.
Yeah. So I think the island, just to give you a quick backstory of Trinidad. So after emancipation hit the island, right? Of course, black folks, it's like, okay, good. We ain't going and doing that work no more. Right? So they needed a new labor force. So the new labor force were the people from India, They were the indentured laborers.
Yeah.
The difference is they came with their whole family. Of course, blacks didn't come with their whole, you know what slavery was to us.
Yeah.
So the only jobs that blacks would take is just doing whatever or becoming the overseers of the plantation. So in Trinidad, black folks began to be the overseers of the plantations, and that's where you got your police force.
Gotcha.
So in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, there was a time when the majority of the police force were people of African descent, right? From way back, right? So in that regard, the island is smaller. So even though you would have your issues of this one and that one, your kids are in school together, you're closer.
Yes, sir.
Here, it ain't necessarily that way. You could pretty much disappear someplace in some state and never see black folks in your life other than what you hear. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The difference there too to here is that a young government in Trinidad would be allowed certain errors along the way, and people are able to voice it and they could make adjustments. Here, the government is committed to doing the wrong to black folk.
Okay. I would
That's
argue some in our government do the same thing, but
yeah,
a whole nother show.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying here.
Oh,
It's
even here. Okay,
by
gotcha.
here in the U.S. It's by design. That was my biggest shock. That was my coming to Jesus moment. Because I didn't really understand it. I was an immigrant, right? But fortunately, in the college I went to, I found myself under black philosophers that was able to explain to me what it is I'm seeing, right? And what it is. And I was consider I was deep in it because I worked in the even white evangelical church for a long time, doing a lot of things. So I think I've come to a clarification now on the issues.
I see. Talk about your company, Zandolee Media.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you guys do. I see you got weddings, corporate events.
Yeah.
So are you a marketer or do you just go in and snap what they have? Or do you say, all right, I hear what your brand is and let's see if we can make it bigger. Is that what you do?
Yeah. So my skill sets will be in essence to help clients in the conceptualizing of what it is they want to do, helping them clarify the vision, funnel down, because you just can't shoot everything that's in your head. Help them clarify the vision, clarify the mission. As a producer, I would understand all of the macro parts, right? And then I also understand all of the micro parts that would be needed to ensure that the vision works. So I'll give you an example of a project we just did. This company, what they do is that they put together courses that go into prisons so people could take the courses, but the courses are only in a manual form. So Myron is like 300 pages of documents that they take these courses. So my job was to take the course, adapt it for film, right? Work with my client to do some rewrites. And then when we're about to shoot, take those rewrites and break the parts up so we know which shot is where, which message is where, which one we're doing, right? And what we did is that we decided to say, let's make this course a conversation with people who were in prison. So we had a table with the host and 5 other people, and each of them were given their talking points. And sometimes the conversation was open, but we made the course become more, I guess, palatable, more organic, right? So that is the stuff that I do. So I would know who's the gaffer, who's the DP I need to get, and then help a client bring all of those parts together and land it.
I see. I noticed on the website lots of great pictures. Who does that? Are you behind the camera or is that the wife?
Yeah, no. So what we'll do in those cases, and I'll tell you why I do that. So for each what do we call it? For each project that we do, I always do a BTS, a behind the scenes.
Okay.
And the BTS would come in and they'll snap those photos. And it is to tell a story, and it's also to ensure that Google sees us and ranks us the nice way, the right way on for the SEO.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I when I showcase my clients, I do it in a blog format, right? Some of the content I'll get from OpenAI, but then I'll also layer in the grids about, I don't know, 20 photos, 15 photos, and I would meta tag those photos with the information that Google is looking for on the SEO side.
See. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have a podcast as well with an interesting name.
Yeah.
What is the 1.7 podcast all about? And what does the 1.7 mean? Because that's kind of an interesting number. It's like
Yeah.
not two, but it's not one.
Yeah. So uh in the film world, cameras have what you call aperture.
Okay.
And the aperture has to do with how much light a camera, a lens is able to let in to the camera. So there are different apertures. So some apertures are 2.8, some is 1.4. So one of my favorite lenses is, the Leica 10 to 25, and the aperture on that lens is 1.7. And now aperture is letting in light. So I call the podcast 1.7 because we're trying to let light in on certain situations
I
that
love
create
that.
go through. Yeah.
So what drives your motivation when you get a new client? Is it how where what let me rephrase that. What place are you coming from? Is it about, hey, I want to showcase how great our business? Are you really passionate about seeing a vision and seeing it all the way through the finish?
Yeah. So what is my intrinsic value? The intrinsic value for me is sticking the landing.
Okay.
I know a lot of people say that, but I'm really big on pre-production.
Okay.
In my business, in my process, we don't shoot anything until we feel we have it completely clarified in our mind. We don't shoot anything until we feel the client has come along. So we see it, the client sees it, we're making the adjustments, the client signs off on it, and then we go shoot it.
Okay.
So by that time, we've walked this journey for so long, everyone at the table knows what is happening. And I would say most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the times, I don't have to re-edit the work. There aren't any there aren't any revisions. The clients don't need no revisions because the first cut is the cut they wanted. you know with agencies works, if you have like an agency that goes out and hire a videography production house, it's different because agencies got their conceptualizers and the marketing people, and a lot of times agency people are not video producers, they're not necessarily storytellers. So they in that sense would do their thing over here, and then they'll come find a production company. The production company would just politically navigate the nonsense of the agencies, and then you'll produce a piece, and then the agency would send it back and then send it to the clients, and then the clients didn't like it, and the agency comes back, and that's why you have revisions and all this stuff, and everybody's trying to navigate it. But in with us, we're the agencies, we're the company that they're coming to. The client is speaking directly to us, and because of that, client expectations are managed from start all the way to finish.
I see. I see. And when does your podcast come out? What day of the week is your podcast out?
Thursday, actually, it drops. Episode 2 drops tomorrow, and it's with the young brother. His name is Joe Sutton. His comedic name, his stage name is Juice.
I think I saw a clip on your Instagram of him.
Yeah,
He was talking. I
yeah,
think the clip was something about him first time meeting Dave Chappelle.
yeah. So that drops, and it'll be everywhere tomorrow.
Awesome, awesome. Do you have a YouTube show as well?
Yeah, the YouTube channel is also 1.7 podcast.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 1.7 podcast. Yep, is the name of the YouTube channel.
All right. And so let's talk a little music. You were, and was it considered hip hop reggae, or did you just do a song that just got landed in the reggae? Because sometimes people will make a song
Yeah,
and they think it's this, and then it just blows up in a genre they weren't even thinking about.
yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with Sean Paul.
Oh, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr.
So
Worldwide.
yeah, yeah, Sean Paul, and if you go back way in the 80s, you got Super Cat, you got
Oh
Ninja
yeah,
Man,
come on,
you got,
man.
you
Yeah.
got all those. So, when I was coming up, hip hop had just hit, right? So we were in that too. So we were doing the same thing, freestyling and all that stuff in the back of the class and beating on the desks and all that
Right,
stuff,
right,
right?
exactly.
And during that time, even in Jamaica, it was having its own renaissance, if you would like to call it that way. So music was really accessible with the Casio keyboard, and so now the beats and all that stuff. So similar with what was going on with the metamorphosis of hip hop and sampling and all that stuff. Jamaica was doing that same thing, and that was the hot thing for everyone in the Caribbean. So that's what we were doing. Um, so with the market though, here in the US, I mean, it's not really hip hop, right? So the idea of reggae hip hop, I think that is a I guess it was a marketing term as to where to put reggae artists or dance hall artists specifically in the market here in the American market to classify them. So that was the reggae hip hop. They classified that. We never classified it like that.
Uh-huh.
Sean Paul never classified it like that.
Uh-huh.
But people who were marketing it classified it like
And so you were on a compilation album, or were
that.
you by yourself?
So I had put the music away to go to do my college thing, right? When I came here, I already had a band that was fire back home. I felt this is what the Lord was doing in my life now. I focused on my college. And then I said, okay, I'm done with the college. Let me put out a song. So I put out a record. On that record, had a song called One Time. It was a banger. All right. Just saying one time, right? Um, and it just so happened the hip hop compilation that it was on, it actually was nominated for a Grammy,
Wow.
right? And those things I wear to say that it's not my song. I wasn't nominated for a Grammy, but a compilation was nominated for a
Gotcha.
Grammy. Who knows what those record producers doing, right? And when it debuted on the Billboard charts, I think it debuted at number 39 or number 37, something like that. Um, but yeah, it was quick. It happened quick.
Let's see. And now, do you still perform? Are you still in the game, if you will?
I still scratch that itch from time to time. I think I wrote a song about 3 years ago, um, dance hall.
Okay.
I wrote a song too for George Floyd when the George Floyd thing happened.
Yeah.
I wrote a song for that. Ever so often, certain things would kind of come through. I like to take long, long, long breaks of just introspection and trying to um just hear some other things, right? Try to see, okay, if I was to be a great writer. So I'll tell you one of the things. So I spent a long time listening to Sting and
Okay.
listening to how he would write, etc. And when I was doing the George Floyd thing, I was like, man, if I was Sting, how would I approach this subject matter, right?
Okay.
And I think I came up with the best line that I've written. And the line is, the world you meant to see isn't what you thought it'd be, right? That opening line. After that, I went back to my no carnal self, but but that was and I'll send you that. It's a powerful song.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see some statuettes in the background. What are those?
So those things are Tele-awards.
What is a Tele-award?
So a Tele-award is short for television award.
Ah,
So a television award would be, like PBS, um, that shows that or programs that are primarily geared to TV. Of course, that's not the case anymore. Everybody has to open it up. So what you would have is that you would have the Emmys, and then you have the Tellies.
Okay.
Right? And then anything after that really don't matter. But and then after the Emmys, I think it's I won't put it as the Oscars, right? But it could be,
Okay.
right? So Emmys, daytime television was what the Emmys were.
And what were your role in? Were you acting or were you producing?
No, so I was just primarily a producer. So two of those Tele-awards, I was contracted to tell the story of a Miss America, right? A Miss Minnesota who became the first Miss America, right? So we went out to Maine, to Boston, and we heard her story, got a story. Of course, we wrote it, we pre-produced it, and then we edited it and sent it in. And it won a couples. And then I think a couple of the other three was for a company called Lyman Lumber, where they hired me to kind of culminate their 125 years of being in the lumber business. And we created some web shorts that talked about clients that really appreciated the service, and some shorts that talked about employees and what it felt like to work there. And those shorts won. So no major movies or nothing, just straight up good content.
That's good though. You've got a really good background to be very creative. What do you want? I know you have a really interesting title with the podcast.
Yeah.
What do you want your podcast to grow? What is the vision for it, besides shedding the light? But what's your big vision? If you had a vision board, where would you say?
Yeah. I mean, that is a good question. That is a good question. What is the big vision? Sometimes some of the hard roadmaps I'm not really necessarily good at.
Okay.
And a lot of that is because I get fulfilled a lot in the process.
Okay.
So it feels like I'm hitting my marks a lot. So for this podcast, the goal with the team is to say, okay, can we produce this well? Right? Can we now edit it well? Get the right parts, right? And then with the edit, okay, so we're going to do a story with stock footage. Can we do that part well? All right. And then, okay, so we're going to push it out. So once it gets to the end and I feel like we've done that well, I'm like, we've accomplished phase one, that goal. My next goal would be to market, like to talk about shows like yours, like what we're doing here today, get people to know about it, because the content is really, really, really great. The human life is just, as you know, Coach, is just a wealth of treasure. So hopefully the younger generations in particular would, one, find some truth as they navigate it. And then some of the more mature guys like us would be like, oh yeah, that's true. Thanks for reminding me. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you a quick story. In one of the episodes, I spoke with a guy called Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson, he's a kind of more mature gentleman. He's more mature than we are, and he spent probably 30 or 40 years in the business.
Wow.
Commercial work. He's working. He's where everybody's trying to be even now. He's getting calls every day. Here's what he said to me. He's like, when I was about to build the business and people calling me all the time, I had to bring people into the company, and I had to give clients to them and different things. And he said, you know what I realized? He said, those clients didn't want those guys. They wanted me. And I realized something about myself. I wanted to do the work, but I didn't want a business.
See.
You see what I'm, right? So he worked until he could, and then he wasn't getting calls because the seasons passed, right? He realized that when himself, he's like, I realized I didn't really want a business. Most creatives don't think about that. They're grinding, they're hot right now. And then one day, phone ain't ringing no more.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. That's an interesting perspective. You know, when I first started this whole thing, I thought, what am I going to talk about? I knew I wanted to be myself, so I'm just going to just say what I want to say. But I will tell you, it has evolved because every time a guest comes on, I feel like it kind of catapults you to the next thing. And every person is different. There's always something you can take away from. I don't think at this point there were some people that came in live in studio that were horrible, but I think it's been on just a roll because you know what energy's good. You can look at someone's stuff and see if you want to talk to them and see if you want to move forward with them. I was talking to some kids up at the Capitol. They had a little African American Youth Day at the Capitol, and they had a section on media. So I was on there talking about podcasts. It was really interesting hearing the kids what they wanted to do. And I just remember they said, "What's the most important thing?" And they thought I was going to say likes, views, and I'm like, "You just got to show up as your authentic self. Those things follow you." And I think they see a lot of these big podcasts that are out there, and they think it's overnight, and it's not overnight. You're just seeing it as it is now. You don't see the grinding, the person starting the show, no one believing in them, and And I also told them that if you're already famous and you tell your huge following, "Hey, I got a podcast," there you're just shifting that audience, so it looks like you got all these people. But when you're starting and no one knows you, you got your family, your friends, your circle, and you have to build on that. So I love that you're saying that. And I like that you are very passionate. You find the passion in putting together. And I have a little bit of that when I'm editing stuff. Certain parts that people say, I'm like, "Oh, I gotta get that out there." So it's once a week. You have people coming on once a week. Is there anybody that comes on there, or do you have a specific format you're trying to follow? It has to be something that's going in a certain direction.
Well, as of right now, most of it is creatives.
Okay. You mean
Right.
creative in your industry or just something that's creative?
Mostly creative within your industry.
Okay.
And a lot of it, since it's just started, most of it are people within my reach.
Okay.
Right. So people that I would know. So yesterday we had a baker.
Okay.
So I kind of met her out in different parts, and she does these fantastic cakes, Nigerian cakes. So we were talking about what her process is. And we
Sounds
had brand, and we
fantastic.
had some media. Yeah. So there's a diversity of people that we just try to chat with.
How involved is your wife in the business?
So Sarah's mostly on the front end.
Okay.
Yeah, so she would do the front end of the weddings, and then we would go out and get teams, shoot those, and then she'll be on the back end to do delivery.
I see.
Yeah, on the corporate side, it's pretty much me, from the call, production, delivery. I would carry the weight to the clients. She may do billing on the
Okay.
corporate side. Yeah, that's
Okay.
mostly.
That's good to have a team. I'm like,
Yeah,
I have a mini team, but most of the team is me. So
yeah, yeah,
it's nice to have those connections and stuff like that.
yeah,
What do you like
yeah.
about storytelling?
Say again?
What do you like about storytelling?
Um, I think it came from my dad, man. I think it came from my dad. My dad, um, just I guess it came from a great oral tradition. I mean, he would be, and I pass these things on with my kids. I mean, one thing I remember with my dad, he turned the lights off. No kids know where he is, and then he'll say, "Down the river, who is there? Splatter splacks." Like when you're walking in water, right? All the kids are going kind of crazy, right? So there's a feeling, there's an emotion that comes with that idea of telling the story. And
Yes,
I enjoy that because I value people. I would like to make people happy. It's not easy to have an idea about a business or a company or a story and get it to actually land. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, so I love that. I love the fact that people respond to stories. I think that people are walking stories.
Uh-huh.
Um, there are different kinds of storyteller. So I wouldn't consider myself a documentary filmmaker. You know, I'm not a Hollywood guy. I didn't come up in that graft, so to speak. Um, but I would consider myself a business corporate storyteller guy. If when
Excellent.
corporate people want to get their message out, I know how to set up that camera. I know what types of framing is the message corporate. I know how to clarify the message for social media and get it set in 15 seconds and all that stuff. You know, documentary, you got to do two shots and an opening shot and then a nice shot, and then the car drives in, and then these long roll ups. Corporates is like it's got to be boom. This is who we are. Bop bop doom. We're done.
Well, doing your podcast is going to be simple. You don't have to do that much. Maybe an
No.
intro, a little bit of chat, a commercial, or
Yeah.
something, and then you're out. A little bit
Yeah.
easier. Who,
Yeah,
who,
and we're not even there yet too, Coach. We're like I'm still trying to figure out the intro. I mean, for your viewers, hey, it's good content, but I'm saying it ain't as polished as this brother's here right now.
man, well, I was fortunate to have an intro made for me, but my
Yeah.
first show, man, we literally just went in there and just started talking.
Yes.
Evolved, like because my show is Fit Over 40 with Coach Clarence, and then the Coach's Corner is what you're on because it's about a business. I wanted Coach's Corner to be because a lot of people in their 40s are coming out of divorce. Maybe they're sick of corporate America and they branch out
Yeah.
into business. So I wanted coaches to come on and talk about different things and inspire people because I could sit here. I've had other fitness coaches on here. People have been listening to me for years, but they might see a woman or a man and there's that one thing that they say and then they're inspired. So I tend to have different people on sometimes in the same line of work, and it's sometimes I'm hearing something good. So it's great for the feedback, but you're
Mhm.
gonna roll into what you're gonna be doing, and it may be completely different than when you started. I know if I just don't do politics, I just don't even do
Yeah, 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 yeah,
this
yeah,
is too
yeah.
much. And people always, what do you say? No, there's a certain thing that's really big that you got to comment on. I will, but that's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Who inspires you? I mean, you speak a lot about your father, but is there somebody else that you really kind of look to for inspiration or kind of go off their guidance?
So, yeah, people in my life generally, when I was coming up, I got to give a lot of props to my mom, and I have to give a lot of props to what I would consider my spiritual mentor. Early in my life as a young man, I came up under a lot of pastors that just really showed you what is the straight and narrow and how you got to be you
Yes.
in a world with limited resources, right? On this side of the pond in America, I would give a lot of props to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Kenneth Young. So he was at the college when I was there. He was in charge of redoc, and so a lot of the immigrant students, the diverse students, he had to ensure that we type of, in essence, survived what we were learning and the shell shock. So he was there a lot of times to in essence give us what we call resilience. Um, so I would definitely speak to that. And then another brother of mine who more recently is a CEO who kind of points me in the right direction. From time to time, I was like, man, could you believe this happened? So, but we need it. We need other people. We need other creatives to kind of see where we are and try to help us.
How important to you is having a mentor or coach?
Hmm. It's important. Um, it's important, and here's how. I would say maybe about 5 years back. And just to show you the weight of input. We were trying to solve our sales issue,
Okay.
sales done, and we hired a sales coach
Okay.
that came in and spoke and said, "This is what you do," and and we went with that. That boosted our business. Another time that I in the business where I could say I got coached into a certain direction was a gentleman. I think he owns the Prana Pop franchise, right? That's the opposite to the corn dog, right?
Okay.
And I just asked him, I said, "Hey, how should I set my prices?" Right? I'm a creative, we deserve all we can get because of right. So how do I set my prices? And he advised me, he said, "Man, in these things," this is what he said. He said, "Listen, if the average income is like $50,000 for the year, you really think they're gonna give you 10% of that in a wedding for a wedding video, right? So you just break it down by the numbers, right?" So he said, "Dude, it is the market that will determine when you eat, and it is the value that you bring to the market. It's
Yes.
nothing else, right?
$100%.
It's just that equation. It's brutal, but it's honest. So if you provide value, the market's going to come back with opportunity." So that helped with the setting of our price. Sometimes we break the rule, right? But that helped with the setting of the price. And in that year, in the year after, we were booking 3 times the amount of clients of anybody else in our space,
That's awesome.
right? So, and we weren't like super cheap, right? Because creatives would say, "Charge more, do less," he was like, "Dude, you do more, because every one of these little snippet things that you do, the bride's going to turn around and market that for free. It's free marketing. It's you're double dipping.
Yes, sir.
They're paying you, then they're marketing for you. So if you can do 100 in a year, you go do 100 in a year and do them great. By the next year, you could bump up your price, and then you could start going from there." It was invaluable advice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've got several different coaches in each aspect of the stuff that I do. And I tell people all the
Mhm.
time, you know, you want to find someone who's made the mistakes before you. So as you probably know, you seem very entrepreneurial. If you go back in your life, if you could go relive it, all the things you know now you wouldn't have done, or you would have done them differently. The same thing why you hire a coach is they've already navigated the path. A lot of the stuff we're doing, we're not reinventing the wheel. We might put a different kind of shock on that wheel, so we navigate the path differently. But
Mhm.
there are people who've been around before us that have made the mistakes, who know what to do. And pricing is huge. Just talking about pricing, a lot of entrepreneurs who start, they don't know what to charge, and they fall into this trap of, I can help everybody. And the reality
Yeah.
is you can't help it, and you probably don't want to. Find your niche, find out who, and that was something for me, honestly, as a younger person. I tried to help everybody. I tried to bend the rules, change prices, and it was, listen, here's what it is. If it's not for you, it's not for you. And I'm much
Mhm.
happier these days,
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
trying to put everybody into a one big box.
Yeah, try to win.
Yeah.
Try to win.
So really quick
Mm.
on the media company, the Zandolee Media. Am I saying that right? I want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zandolee.
I love that. Can you are you limited geographically, or can you take clients globally?
We can go anywhere.
Okay.
We can do anything.
So I like, good answer. I didn't want you to be afraid and say, well,
Yeah.
right now we got to stay
Yeah,
local.
like right.
And then people hear fear, like, oh, this guy's not serious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can go anywhere. We can do anything. That's where it is. It's a team. So I've got a team. I've got a I've got a great team of guys.
I love it.
We do the photos, we could jump in a plane, come cover your event for you. We could do that BTS behind the scenes. We could come in, we could do the videos that you need, we could cover your event, right? We could sit and talk about Okay, you're holding a banquet, you're trying to raise money. But what's the best way to hold a banquet? Who are your donors? What are they going to feel? Do they want to watch a 10-minute video? Probably not. But what if you get 5 30-second videos that shot well to integrate into your banquet night, right? The whole process that we can help companies say, okay, how can we do this better? And how can we make it really manageable and it's done well?
All right. We're in Black History Month,
Yes.
which I consider Black history is the world history.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want the viewer to know from your perspective about Black history?
Man, that's good. That's a good question. Because a big question for me has been, and it's not just a question, it's an important principle. So I wasn't born here. I was born in Trinidad, right? Very obvious, even though I might have a whole bunch of mix up in me, I'm African. Okay. So I'm Black.
All of us.
Right? You see what I'm saying, right? So um after watching, like Nikki Haley and Vivek and them fellows and them, one of the things that I think it's important for me, right? As I get opportunities, one of the things that's to the forefront of my mind, and every up time I get to share it in certain places, I do, is that everything that I'm getting these opportunities is because of the struggles of African Americans, right? Do you understand, right? That is the reason. That is the right. It is not just a random thing of American history that it just so happens that I'm coming and we all together and we right, because that's not how it has panned out. So um for me, the message that I want to get out, and people are listening, if you're an immigrant here, and especially if when you sign your immigration papers, you didn't put Black or African, you didn't have to do that, right? Um, you received a subsidy, right? You receive a subsidy right there. What we're seeing with the Viveks and the Nikki is that their proximity to whiteness is more valuable to them than they call their proximity to Blackness. They're just like, because understandable, you ain't getting more subsidies here. You're going to get your subsidies on this team.
Yes.
Right. But what I'm saying to young creatives and people, I have a hope that one, in these groups, right, whether it's BIPOC groups, et cetera, et cetera. And I've said this, there's no IPOC without the B. It's the B. So the measurement for me of whether or not these groups work is who's making the money, right? Racism has never been about friendships. White folks been having friends with Black people way back down, right? It's never been about that. It's never been about interracial marriage and sex. People been doing that behind the chicken coop for, taking
Exactly.
risks with their life, right?
Right.
Taking risks with their lives, right? Right? People
Exactly.
take risks. Slaves go take risks with their life. I'm just telling you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what it's always been about, and I've learned this. I've had to learn this, right? That's what I would say to every diverse person. If you're gonna want to have a voice for equity and these types of things, it's important to get yourself an African American intellectual, a coach, right? That you could be under, right? You under to say, hey, this is the experience that we walked in. Because most people I observe, brother, they're just making up stuff. It's a lot of sentiment, right? When you check the data, it's no Black folks ain't making no money. It's the Viveks making the money and the Nikki Haley's making the money, right? And they're still saying, well, I had a Black friend, and this, these are the things. So for me, in my business, um, that's an important stand because I want my kids, as they move through, they're like, yo, you're moving through on the backs And I don't feel like I speak for African Americans. This is just an individual Trinidadian American guy, right? That you have to say, yeah, this is the camp that we're in, right? And if any opportunities we could see, we'll always try to say, hey, are Black people making money? When I say Black people, I don't mean me making money, right? I'm like, if this is a group, my African American brothers and sisters, are they making money?
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying? And that's going to cost us. I'll tell you something. In one of my weddings, I got it on audio, I got it on video. One of my weddings, I wasn't there, but one of my employees were there, and the father of the bride gets up and he decides, hey, I'm nervous. So what am I going to say to make everybody feel comfortable? Let me break the ice with the joke, right? And he says, well, when my daughter was born, she had long, dark hair. Saw her in the hospital for the first time. She had dark skin, and I thought she was an N baby.
Oh, wow.
Do you understand? You see what I'm saying? So people kind of shock, and then they laugh because the majority of the room is, the typical thing that you see in a wedding. Majority of the room is white folks with probably one Asian person or something like that, but no legitimate Black friends, right? So I wasn't there, but when I got the tape and I heard about it from the team, I just told them, we don't do that. We're not editing your thing. We're done. We'll see it. We're not tough luck. Like Bob Marley said, tough going.
Yeah.
Right? Because companies could have been like, well, because nobody's watching you, right? So that's the steps that I'm trying to make and who I'm trying to be for my own self in my business. And I'm satisfied with the place, right? We did make some public announcements. We lost money. People were like, okay, yeah, we don't, yeah. Okay, decided to feel funny, right? But we good.
Good. Good. All right. Let everybody know where they can find all the information about you and support your show.
Yeah.
And if they want some work from your company, how they can find you.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in some video production, we'll love to help you tell your story. And you can find us at www.zandoleemedia.com, ZANDOLEE media.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at the same Zandolee Media. You find us at TikTok, right? Also Zandolee Media 00. And for our podcast, it's called the 1.7 podcast. 1.7 podcast. You can listen to the shows anywhere that podcasts are. You could download your podcast there, and you can also find us at YouTube at the same name, 1.7 podcast.
Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Daniel, quite the story. We could keep going on. He's got so many good stories and definitely well read and educated, which is always fun. And remember, another example of just pursuing your dreams, what you want to do, and having a career that is passion. I tell people all the time, if you want to build a life, solve a problem in other people's lives, and that's how you do it. All right, until next time, I'll see you guys again. Stay healthy, stay above ground if you can, and be the best version of yourself. I'll see you next week. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you like videos like these and you want more information, please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. Good for the algorithm, keeps us relevant, keeps us in your inbox anytime a new video drops. We'll see you next time.